One night at the bar, over the noise of soccer on the TV and the clinking of beer glasses, I heard a guy say my wife's name. And not just in passing. He was bragging about being with her. I could have pounced on him and knocked his teeth out. But I didn't. I smiled. I listened. And I started digging. And what did I find? It wasn't just about my wife. And it sure as hell wasn't just about one guy. This story's about secrets, false names, and a gym that turned into something real dark behind closed doors. Believe me, what I uncovered shocked me. It pulled back the curtain on a whole string of deception, lies, and betrayal. And the ending? It ain't what you'd expect. I went through hell, but in the end, I got what I needed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning. Back when life had a little more breathing room, I used to hit the gym 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. Nothing fancy. Just a local spot tucked between a tire shop and a Mexican place that smelled better than it looked. The gym wasn't big, but it had what I needed, some old iron, a couple treadmills that rattled like shopping carts, and a heavy bag in the corner that I'd work when I was feeling wound up from the week. I liked it there. Knew most of the guys by face, a few by name. It wasn't the kind of place with mirrors everywhere or loud music blasting. The owner, Doug, was this older guy, built like a stump, always wore these faded tank tops from the 80s with holes under the arms. Ran the place with his wife, Shelley. She was bubbly, talkative, kind of flirty sometimes, but I never paid it much mind. I figured that's just how she was. Friendly. That was about 2 years ago. Things got busy after that. My knees started aching more than usual, and work picked up. Plus, my weekends were getting swallowed by home projects. New gutters, redoing the deck, swapping out the damn water heater that decided to quit in February. Add in a couple family emergencies, and, well, time slipped away. Before I knew it, it had been months since I'd stepped foot in that gym. So fast forward to a few months back. I'd just finished a long week. Working overtime, trying to meet a deadline, barely seeing my wife except for dinners and sleepy kisses goodnight. That Friday, I swung by my buddy Carl's bar. Just needed a cold beer, a hot meal, and maybe a few minutes of quiet. The place was humming like usual. Neon signs, clinking glasses, folks at the pool table and back. I sat at the bar, ordered a burger, and waited. That's when I heard it. A familiar voice, not from recent memory, but one that tugged at something. I turned just slightly, and sure enough, there was this guy, leaning back in his stool like he owned the place. Muscles bulging under a tight shirt, jawline sharp enough to split firewood. He was laughing with a buddy, loud enough to be heard across the bar. It took me a second, but then I placed him. Travis, personal trainer at the gym. I remembered him as one of those smooth-talking types. Always had a way with women, the kind who flexed just a little too hard between sets. Not a bad guy, far as I knew, just too slick for his own good. The kind of fella who called everybody bro, and spent more time fixing his hair than lifting. Anyway, I wasn't paying them much attention until I caught a piece of their conversation. "She's wild, man," Travis said, grinning like he just won the lottery. "I'm telling you, it's like every time we meet, it gets crazier. You know who it is, right? Jessica Carter." I froze. Jessica Carter. That's my wife. Now, it's not exactly the rarest name in the world, I get that. Could be a coincidence. But the way he said it like it meant something. Like he expected the other guy to know who she was. Like she was someone worth bragging about. My heart didn't race. It stopped. I sat there, holding my beer like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the ground. I kept my face still, my body relaxed. I'd learned a long time ago that when something rattles you, you don't show it. Not right away. Not until you know the shape of it. His buddy leaned in, eyes wide. "No way. That Jessica? Dude, she's married, right?" Travis chuckled, real casual. "Yeah, and that hasn't stopped her before. She says her husband's clueless. Always busy with work or fixing stuff around the house." The words crawled under my skin like ants. Now, I'm not the violent type. I don't go looking to swing at the first sign of trouble. But in that moment, I felt something deep in my chest go stiff. Like someone had clamped down on my lungs and twisted. I wanted to believe it was just a mix-up. Another woman with the same name. Maybe Travis was full of hot air, trying to impress his buddy. Hell, maybe he was just plain lying. But my gut ain't lied to me much in this life. They kept talking, lower now, and I couldn't catch the rest. Didn't want to make it obvious I was eavesdropping. I turned my stool a little, faced the bar, and stared at the untouched burger in front of me. I thought about my wife. Jessica. She worked at a bank on the edge of town. She wasn't flashy, liked her routines, came home around the same time most nights. We watched the same shows, shared the same bed, made each other laugh. She had this habit of singing when she cooked, half humming, half talking to the dog like he was a roommate. She'd rub my back when it got stiff and always reminded me to stretch before bed. She was mine, had been for years. And I never, not once, had a reason not to trust her. Until now. I didn't go over to that table, didn't make a scene, didn't even finish my meal. I waited until they started watching the game, then left cash on the bar and slipped out the side door. It was cold outside. One of those nights where the wind cuts through your jacket and the stars feel like they're keeping secrets. I sat in my truck, engine off, just listening to the ticking of the cooling metal and the muffled noise from inside the bar. I had no proof, no evidence, just a name, a voice, and a sickness in my gut that wouldn't let me breathe right. Still, there was one thing I knew with certainty. Something wasn't right, and I was going to find out what the hell was going on. When I walked through the door that night, the smell of pot roast hit me first. Jessica was already in the kitchen, humming some old country tune, barefoot, hair tied up in that messy little bun she throws together when she's feeling relaxed. She looked up at me with that same sweet smile she always had and said, "Hey, babe." I was just about to put the rolls in. I kissed her cheek like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just sat at a bar listening to some gym rat brag about being with a woman who had her same first and last name. I told myself it was a coincidence. A stupid, messed up coincidence. But as the night wore on, between the usual small talk and her asking if I'd fixed the squeaky hinge on the laundry door, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't anything big. Not at first. Just the way she looked at me when she laughed. Like the laughter was a little forced. Like her eyes were checking to see if I was checking her. She was talking like usual, telling me about some customer who forgot their PIN 3 times in a row at her bank. But I found myself studying her face instead of listening. Watching how long she looked at me before glancing away. Whether her hands fidgeted. Whether her stories matched what she'd told me last week. I didn't find anything obvious. And that's what bothered me the most. The next morning, I sat on the porch with my coffee while she got ready for work. Our dog Duke laid by my boots, lazy as ever, tail twitching at every squirrel he saw. Jess came out in a blue blouse, hair curled just so, and kissed me on the forehead like she always did. "You gonna start that railing today?" she asked, eyeing the stack of lumber beside the porch. "Probably after lunch," I said. She nodded, then drove off, waving at me through the window. I watched her taillights all the way down the road. Then I grabbed my keys and followed her. I felt like a damn fool, to be honest. I'd never done anything like that before. I trusted her. I wanted to trust her. But that thing Travis said, how she told him her husband was always too busy or distracted, kept ringing in my ears. I followed her all the way to the bank, same as usual, parked across the street like some undercover agent, trying not to be obvious. She went inside, coffee in hand, waved at the security guard, smiled like always. Nothing weird. I waited 30 minutes. Nothing. I drove home, feeling ridiculous, like a teenager checking his girlfriend's texts. But that sick feeling in my stomach was still there. For the next few days, I kept trying to brush it off. Told myself to focus on real things. The railing. The leaky pipe in the basement. But every time Jessica laughed too hard at her phone, or hesitated for a second when I asked how her day went, my stomach turned all over again. So I paid attention. Her phone habits were different now that I was watching. Or maybe they'd always been that way, and I was only now seeing it. She didn't hide her screen or take calls in the other room. Nothing dramatic. But she always kept it face down. She'd answer texts fast, type a little too long for someone just chatting with coworkers. And she never let it leave her side, not even when she went to use the bathroom or take out the trash. That wasn't normal. She didn't use the house phone much anymore, but I checked the call logs just in case. Nothing unusual. I started glancing at her calendar, notes on the fridge, times she said she was working late or grabbing groceries. I made mental notes, then checked when I could. It all added up. Too perfectly. That's the thing. When someone lies, usually they mess up somewhere. Dates don't match. One excuse contradicts another. But Jess? Everything lined up. Her receipts, her gas mileage, the way she talked about people at work. It all felt too clean, like a house that got scrubbed 5 minutes before a surprise guest showed up. One night she left her phone on the coffee table when she went to shower. Duke jumped up beside me, and I used the excuse of moving him to scoot the phone closer. I picked it up. It was locked. Of course it was. She'd always had a code on it, but now it hit different. I'd never snooped before. I hated the idea of it. Felt like betrayal, even if it was for a reason. But still, I tried her birthday. My birthday. Our anniversary. Duke's name. No dice. I set it back down before she came back out, heart pounding like I'd committed a crime. And then there were the nights I waited in the car, parked on side streets near her bank. One time, I even followed her when she said she had a team dinner at a local steakhouse. Sure enough, she walked in with a group of folks, all in bank uniforms, name tags still on. Laughed with them, ordered food, came out an hour and a half later. Same time she said she would. I sat there, watching from a half block away, feeling like a crazy person. But I couldn't stop. Because deep down, something didn't add up. And the more everything looked normal, the more I felt like I was being played. I started noticing little things. Lipstick on the rim of a coffee cup that she swore she hadn't worn that day. A gym bag in her trunk with a towel I'd never seen before. A new playlist on her car radio labeled Energy Boost. I asked her about it, and she said it was from her friend Lacey at work. Swapped music on a whim, but just never let people mess with her playlists. She was picky about her music. It stuck with me. One night we were watching a show, and she got up to grab popcorn. Her phone buzzed on the armrest. Just once. No name. Just a number and the word gym in the preview bubble. I didn't move. Didn't touch it. She came back, picked it up without looking rattled, and tucked it in her pocket. Spam again, she muttered. I should block these idiots. But the way she said it? Too easy. Like a line she'd practiced. That night I laid in bed, eyes wide open, listening to the ceiling fan spin. Jessica breathed slow and steady beside me. Duke snored on the floor. The moonlight came through the blinds and painted stripes across our comforter. I didn't have a reason to accuse her. Didn't have anything I could point to and say, that's it. That's the proof. But I couldn't stop thinking about the bar. About Travis. About that name, my wife's name, falling out of his mouth like it was some kind of secret trophy. And no matter how much I wanted to believe it was nothing, I couldn't shake the feeling that my world was tilting, inch by inch, towards something I wasn't ready to face. It had been over a year since I'd stepped foot in that gym. Not that it changed much. Same cracked sidewalk out front, same flickering open sign in the window, like it was always half-trying. The air still smelled like rubber mats, old sweat, and whatever off-brand cleaning spray they used to mop the floors every night. I walked in slow, real casual, like I was just another guy thinking about getting back in shape. The front desk was empty, but I could hear music coming from the back, something with a heavy beat, probably meant to get your heart rate up even if you were just wiping down a bench. The place was quiet otherwise. A few folks were scattered across the free weights and machines, headphones in, heads down. That old heavy bag in the corner still had the same duct tape on it from back when I used to hit it after a long shift. The lights buzzed a little overhead. The vending machine was still broken. And then I saw him. Travis. He was spotting some guy doing incline presses, chatting him up like they were best friends. He still had that same cocky grin, like every sentence out of his mouth was a joke only he thought was funny. He looked right past me like I didn't exist. Either he didn't remember me, or he was pretending not to. I waited until he moved on, then wandered around, slow and easy, like I was checking the place out. I asked the girl at the front desk about membership rates. Told her I was thinking about getting back into my old routine. She handed me a little pamphlet, smiled, and said they had a free 2-week trial if I wanted to get a feel for it. I took the paper and nodded like I was just going to sleep on it. But the next morning, I was back, fresh gym bag in hand, and my old hoodie on. I didn't bring my usual gear, just enough to look like I was here to sweat. But really, I was here to watch. Travis was still there, bouncing between clients, flirting with a blonde on the treadmill, pretending to correct someone's squat form. I noticed he touched a lot. Hands on shoulders, arms, backs. Always laughing. Always leaning a little too close. I kept my distance and started getting a lay of the land again. Same rusty lockers. Same sour smell in the locker room that no amount of lemon-scented cleaner could ever cover. The showers were still hit or miss. Mine barely had warm water. I did some light lifting, mostly to blend in, but part of me wanted to feel that old rhythm again. There's something about iron that clears your head. It doesn't lie to you. You either lift it or you don't. It's honest in a way people sometimes aren't. After a few days, I started talking to some of the regulars. Just small talk at first. Comments about the music being too loud or the cable machine being janky. Most of them were friendly, some were quiet, and a couple just gave polite nods. Eventually, I struck up a conversation with a guy named Mike, middle-aged, like me, with bad knees and a busted shoulder from high school baseball. We hit it off pretty quick. Talked about tools, fishing, how much better coffee tastes out of an old thermos. Real guy stuff. After a couple of workouts, I asked him casually if he knew Travis well. Mike chuckled. Everyone knows Travis. He's got more energy than a squirrel on Red Bull. Kind of a flirt, that one. Yeah, I asked, keeping it neutral. Oh, yeah, Mike said. Doug keeps him around, 'cause he brings in clients. Women love the guy. Drives my wife nuts, the way he carries himself. She swears he oils up before work just to shine under the lights. We both laughed, but something about the way he said it made my skin itch. Not because of the joke, because of how true it probably was. I started noticing patterns. Travis would finish with a client, hang out for 10 or 15 minutes, then disappear into the back room behind the office. Sometimes he'd come back out with a different shirt. Sometimes not at all. Once I saw him leave through the rear exit and come back 20 minutes later with Shelley, the gym owner's wife, both of them grinning like teenagers who just pulled a prank. Now, I ain't the jealous type. But something about that smile she had, it didn't sit right. I remembered her being friendly before. Chatty. But now, it felt different. She looked at people like she knew a secret they didn't. And the way she moved around Travis? Comfortable. Too comfortable. It didn't take long before I saw enough to know something was going on behind the scenes. The cracks were there, and they were spreading. Every day I came in, I saw another odd glance, another off-schedule shift, another joke that carried a little too much weight behind the laugh. But the thing that stuck with me most? Travis still acted like he didn't know who I was. He'd pass by me, not like I was just another guy chasing biceps. Never once let on that he'd ever seen me before, even though we used to work out just a few benches apart. Even though I'd heard him say my wife's full name at a bar less than 2 weeks ago. I didn't push it. Not yet. I kept my head down and my ears open. And every little thing I saw just added fuel to the fire burning in my gut. Whatever was going on here, it wasn't just casual flirting. There was a current running under the surface of that gym. And I was pretty sure it had sucked in more people than anyone realized. So I kept showing up. Same time every day. Same hoodie. Same casual attitude. Like I didn't know anything. But I knew enough to stay sharp. Because the deeper I looked, the more it felt like this gym, this place I used to come to clear my head, was hiding something. And whatever it was, I was getting closer. After a couple weeks of playing undercover at the gym, I still didn't have anything solid. Just a whole bunch of weird, suspicious smiles. Glances that lingered too long. People slipping into that back room like it was some kind of clubhouse. And Travis, always moving through it all like a shark in shallow water. Cool. Confident. Too confident. But the problem was, I didn't have proof. Just gut feelings and fragments. Nothing you could pin to a wall and say, here, look, this is it. And my gut? It wouldn't settle. Not even for a minute. I wasn't eating right. Wasn't sleeping much either. I'd lay there at night, staring at the ceiling fan spin slow and steady while Jessica breathed beside me like everything was normal. And maybe it was. Maybe I was the one seeing ghosts in the shadows. Or maybe I wasn't. I needed answers. Real ones. Not guesses. Not paranoia. So I called in a professional. His name was Ray. Ray Mendez. Found him through a buddy who runs a towing yard. Said Ray helped his cousin track down a missing car and a cheating fiancé in the same week. Said he was expensive, but worth it. Ray was in his early 60s, gray around the temples, and like he spent more time in the sun than inside. First time I met him, he was leaning against the hood of a beat-up Crown Vic in a diner parking lot, sipping coffee from a paper cup and squinting at me like he could already tell I wasn't gonna like what he had to say. You the one with the gym problem? He asked, voice like gravel. Yeah, I said, shaking his hand. Firm grip. Dry palms. All right. Tell me everything. Don't leave out the parts that make you look bad. That was Ray in a nutshell. No frills. No time for small talk. I liked him right away. We sat in a booth by the window, and I laid it all out. What I heard at the bar, what I'd seen at the gym, how Travis said my wife's name like it was his little secret. Ray didn't interrupt. Just listened, sipped his coffee, and took a couple notes in a tiny spiral notepad. When I was done, he tapped his pen once and nodded. All right. Give me a few days. Don't go poking around anymore. Got it? Let me see it fresh. So I backed off. As much as it killed me, I stayed away from the gym for a week. Told Jess I was swamped at work. Spent most of my time pretending to fix stuff in the garage or walking Duke longer than usual just to kill time. Then on Thursday afternoon, Ray called and told me to meet him. Same diner. Same booth. He already had coffee poured when I walked in. He didn't waste time. Just slid a manila folder across the table like we were in some crime drama. Inside were a bunch of grainy photos, taken from a distance. Most of them showed the gym entrance, parking lot, and back alley. You were right, he said. Something's off. My stomach tightened. Travis hangs around late, Ray said. Sometimes real late. Gym closes at 10. He's still there close to midnight some nights. Not alone, either. There's a handful of folks who show up after hours, couple trainers, 1 or 2 regulars. He flipped to a photo. Travis, standing at the side door, holding it open for a blonde woman in tight athletic gear. Face turned away, but familiar. Too familiar. That one shows up often, Ray said. Named Shelley. Wife of the owner, Doug. Sometimes she brings a change of clothes. Sometimes she brings company. I didn't say anything. Just stared at the photo. My heart thumped like someone dropped a cinder block on it. But here's where it gets weird, Ray continued. You see this? He pulled out another photo. Different woman. Brunette. Wearing a hoodie and big sunglasses. She was laughing, stepping out of a black SUV. People call her Jessica Carter. My blood went cold. What? I asked, my voice quieter than I meant. That's what they call her, Ray repeated. Heard it from 2 different sources, trainer named Eli, and one of the front desk girls. Both said she's part of the after-hours crew, whatever that means. I asked if they meant your wife, showed a photo. They said, no, not her. Different lady. But that's the name she uses. I felt my jaw clench so hard it popped. She's using my wife's name? I asked. Ray leaned back. Eyes tired. Seems like it. First and last. I stared at the photo again. It wasn't Jessica. The face, the hair, the shape, it was close, but not quite. Close enough that if someone saw her in passing, they might assume it was. But it wasn't. Still, hearing my wife's full name used like a mask by some mystery woman, that was a whole different kind of violation. Why would someone do that? I muttered, mostly to myself. Ray shrugged. Could be a cover. Could be a joke. Could be a way to throw people off if someone ever comes asking questions. Hell, maybe your wife got mistaken for this woman once, and they just leaned into it. You'd be surprised what kind of games people play when they think nobody's watching. I sat there, palms flat on the table, trying to process it. My head was spinning. My stomach felt hollow. I thought I was going to find proof she was hiding something, I said. Instead, I find someone else pretending to be her? Ray nodded, slow. That's what makes this one interesting. I looked at him, and for the first time since we met, I saw something in his eyes. Not pity, not curiosity. Caution. You're not wrong to follow your gut, he said. But if this thing runs deeper than you thought, you're going to need to decide how far you're willing to go. Most guys want the truth until they get it. Then they wish they could put it back. I didn't answer. Just looked down at that fake Jessica Carter again, and realized something real bad. This wasn't just about me and my wife anymore. This was bigger, and I just stepped right into the middle of it. After Ray showed me that security footage and let me hear that trainer, Eli, say the name out loud, it all clicked. This wasn't some offhand joke. It was a cover. See, Jessica still showed up to the gym every now and then. Weekend mornings mostly, just to keep herself active. She didn't chat with folks much, kept her headphones in and stayed in her lane. But she was seen, recognized, known. So when someone, this other woman, this fake Jessica, needed a name to operate under for the late-night gatherings, why not use hers? It was safe, familiar. No one would question it. Ray called it smoke and mirrors. I called it something else entirely. They were hosting secret after-hours meetups, and from what we could tell, it wasn't about fitness. They weren't there for workouts. They brought wine, speakers, and sometimes costumes. It wasn't fitness, it was something else entirely. Travis, Shelley, and a small group of others, trainers, clients, even a woman in a black SUV, slipping in and out through the side door, always after hours. Nobody talked about it. Nobody questioned it. But when someone did ask who was there, Jessica Carter, my wife's name, they were using it like a fake ID, just tossing it around to deflect suspicion. And it worked. If someone said her name in passing, people thought of my Jessica, the woman who came in with a towel over her shoulder and a bottle of water in her hand. That realization hit me hard. Not because I thought Jessica was involved, I didn't. But because someone else decided to drag her into this without asking. without blinking. That was a different kind of betrayal. A dirtier one. They were using her reputation to cover their own lies. And the more I thought about that, the more I knew I couldn't stay quiet. Whatever was going on at that gym, it wasn't just about shady people doing shady things anymore. It was about my wife's name. Our name. And that meant it was personal now. I didn't explode. Didn't yell. I just started building my case. I needed proof, a real, solid, undeniable. So I went to work gathering it. Security footage, names, timestamps. Ray helped. He had the contacts. The instincts. I had the drive. Between us, we stitched together a picture. But I needed eyes on the inside. That's where Kenny came in. Old buddy of mine. Used to install cameras for small businesses. I asked if he still had any of his gear, and sure enough, he did. One of those motion-triggered cameras disguised to look like a busted smoke detector. He helped me plant it across from the gym's side door, tucked under an old light fixture. Within days, the footage rolled in. Travis. Shelley. A rotating cast of others. All coming and going after hours. Different faces, same pattern. They'd show up well after closing, disappear inside, and stay for hours. Then came the clincher, a woman wearing sunglasses at night, called Jessica Carter, by 2 different sources. Not my wife. Not even close-up close. But from far away? Easy mistake. That was the point. I put together everything we had, photos, footage, notes, and mailed an anonymous package to Doug's business partner, Marcus. The guy handled finances and rarely showed his face at the gym. But his wife, Laura, worked there as a trainer. 2 nights later, Ray saw Marcus storm in during one of the secret sessions. Lights shut off fast. Everyone scrambled. Looked like a bomb went off, without a word spoken. It was working. The heat was rising. Next up was Travis's girlfriend, Jasmine. She used to bring muffins to the front desk. Always kind, always quiet. I tracked her down through a friend and told her we needed to talk. When we met, I handed her the same folder I sent Marcus. She flipped through it slow, lips trembling, then looked up at me. He told me he was picking up night shifts, she whispered. I didn't say anything. Just let her sit with it. She nodded, folded the folder shut, and thanked me. Quiet. Calm. But her eyes told me she'd be doing something about it. I didn't need drama. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted the truth out where it couldn't hide anymore. And now? The truth was knocking on the door. When things finally blew up, it didn't happen all at once. Not a lightning strike. More like a thunderstorm rolling in slow, then tearing the roof off. It started with whispers, people asking questions around the gym, shooting looks at the trainers, talking a little lower than usual. A few regulars noticed schedules shifting. One guy told me his Thursday evening class got canceled with no explanation. Another said Shelley hadn't been seen for days. Then the hammer dropped. The gym shut down. A plain sheet of paper was taped to the front door one morning, closed until further notice. No logo. No apology. Just those 5 words. I drove past and saw 2 employees standing in the parking lot, hands on hips, looking as lost as I felt that first night at the bar. I didn't stop. Just kept on driving, letting the radio fill the silence. Doug, the owner, went quiet too. Word around town was that his marriage hit the rocks fast. He hadn't known half of what was going on inside his own walls. Shelley had taken the keys, the books, and apparently a sizable chunk of their shared savings, and disappeared. Vanished. Packed up a few bags in the middle of the night and left no trail. Ray said she withdrew cash from 3 different ATMs in the same day, then nothing. He figured she had help. Probably someone from that late-night crew. And then there was Travis. He didn't go quietly. One afternoon, I got a text from Kenny. You see the parking lot? I didn't know what he meant until I saw the video. Somebody had caught it on camera. Travis getting into it with another man, bigger guy, angry. Not a shoving match. A full-on right hook to the jaw. Flattened him. Nobody stepped in right away. Just stood and watched. Later, I heard the guy was the husband of one of the trainers. Quiet. Worked at a machine shop. Found out about the after-hours fun from someone at the grocery store. Small towns don't keep secrets long. After that, Travis disappeared too. His social media went dark. A few girls at the gym deleted pictures of him. It was like everyone was trying to forget he ever existed. I won't lie. I felt something close to satisfaction. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I needed people to suffer. But because truth matters. And people should pay for using someone else's name like that. My wife's name. My family's name. They dragged it through the dirt to cover their own lies. That's the part one couldn't forgive. Ray checked in a few times afterward. Said the whole operation was probably bigger than we thought. He'd seen this kind of thing before, people who blur the lines, think rules don't apply when they're behind closed doors. But he also said I handled it right. I've seen folks blow up their whole lives chasing answers, he said. You got the truth, and you kept your hands clean. I nodded, but deep down I didn't feel clean. Just emptied out. It's strange, walking away from a mess you didn't make but still got covered in. Like standing downwind of a fire someone else started. The gym had been part of my life. A place where I used to clear my head. Where I met folks, lifted weight, found routine. Now it was a burned-out shell, locked doors, rumors, and ash. But I walked away with my marriage intact. With my head on straight. And that meant everything. When it all came out, the fake name, the late-night meetups, the gym shutting its doors, I finally sat down with Jessica and told her everything. Every last piece. I told her about Travis at the bar. About the name being used behind her back. About Ray and the footage. The camera in the alley. The lies, the whispers, the way they'd tossed her name around like it didn't belong to a real person. She didn't yell. Didn't ask why I hadn't told her sooner. She cried. Not from guilt. Not out of fear. But because I'd been carrying it alone. I hate that you thought I'd do that to you, she said through tears. That it ever crossed your mind. And I did too. But we talked. Really talked. For the first time in what felt like years, we laid it all bare. Every fear, every frustration, every little thing we'd both been holding on to without saying out loud. All those nights I laid awake wondering, all the times she caught me staring at her and didn't know why. We worked through it. Went to counseling. Just a few sessions to help us sort through the fog. Our counselor, Donna, was this no-nonsense woman with reading glasses and the kind of calm that makes you tell the truth even when it stings. She told us, it's not always about fixing something that's broken. Sometimes, it's about cleaning the windows so you can see each other clearly again. And she was right. We started fresh. New routines. More honest conversations. Weekly dinners where the phone stayed in a drawer and we just talked. About nothing. About everything. We even joined a new gym together. One across town. Smaller, quieter. No dark corners or side doors. All glass up front. Wide open and bright. We go 3 times a week now. Side by side. I still lift heavier than she does, but she runs circles around me on the treadmill. We laugh about it. Sometimes, I catch her watching me like I used to watch her. Soft smile, proud eyes. She still sings while she cooks. Still talks to Duke like he's her furry roommate. And me? I trust her more now than I ever have. Not because of blind faith, but because we earned it. We earned our peace. See, sometimes it's not the marriage that's broken. Sometimes it's just the place you've been standing in. And once you move, once you step into the light, everything changes. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did you suspect the wife was innocent the whole time, or were you doubting her too? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.